Wait. I can see the thoughts jumping out with your expression. This new voice carries secrets, whispers of things hidden beneath the surface. You sense correctly, dear friend. Tonight's tale has awakened the part of me that knows how to smile while cataloging lies, that understands the art of seeming ordinary while gathering truths that powerful people would kill to keep hidden. This voice belongs to one who has walked through celebrations where the laughter rings hollow, who has learned to read the spaces between words and the meanings behind two perfect smiles. The tale I'm about to share unfolds in a place that should have been sanctuary, a holy city bathed in divine light, where festivals should speak of genuine joy and community gatherings should nourish the soul. But sometimes, the greatest evils wear the masks of righteousness, and the most dangerous corruption spreads through willing hearts rather than conquered territory. So listen carefully, friend, for this tale of the Harper's Infiltration, a story of festivals that feel too rehearsed, of children who speak like adults, of divine light that may cast shadows deeper than any darkness, and of the terrible discovery that sometimes the most sophisticated evil comes disguised as perfect order. The Autumn Harvest Festival in Elturel should have been a celebration of peace and prosperity. Its cobblestone streets alive with the laughter of children and the warm golden glow of lanterns swaying in the evening breeze. The scent of roasted chestnuts and spiced cider filled the air, while musicians played on every corner, their melodies weaving together into a symphony of joy that spoke of a community at peace. But Harper agent Remallia Haventree found herself walking through crowds that seemed too perfect, too controlled, their smiles just a fraction too bright to be entirely genuine. There was something choreographed about the way people moved, as if they were all performing in a play where everyone knew their lines except her. She paused at a puppet show where children gathered in a neat semicircle, their faces upturned toward a stage where colorful marionettes enacted what appeared to be a traditional folktale. But as Remallia listened more carefully to the dialogue, she realized the story being told was not one she recognized. This was something new, something that spoke of brave children who reported suspicious behavior to proper authorities, of communities that remained strong by weeding out those who thought differently. "Beautiful evening, isn't it?" said a voice beside her. Remallia turned to see a middle-aged man in brown clerical robes, his face bearing the kind of earnest smile that marked him as someone who truly believed in whatever cause he served. "Indeed it is," she replied, maintaining the slightly breathless enthusiasm that marked her cover identity as a traveling merchant of religious artifacts. "I've rarely seen a community celebration so unified in its joy." "That's the blessing of the companion," the cleric said, gesturing toward the brilliant second sun that hung above Elturel like a beacon of divine protection. "Its light purifies more than just undead corruption. It helps us see clearly, helps us understand what truly matters in life." There was something in his tone that made Remallia's trained instincts prickle with warning. The words were innocuous enough, but they carried an undertone of absolute certainty that she had learned to associate with fanaticism. She had come to Elturel following intelligence that suggested the cult of the dragon had established a cell here, hidden beneath the surface of one of Faerun's most devout communities. The irony was not lost on her. If evil could take root in a place protected by the companion, then nowhere was truly safe. The Harper network had been tracking unusual patterns in the cult's recruitment activities. Young people were disappearing, not kidnapped, but leaving of their own accord after attending what appeared to be perfectly innocent social gatherings. Families spoke of children who had become distant and secretive, speaking in phrases that sounded rehearsed. "Father Marcus," one of the children called to the cleric beside her. "May we visit the storytelling circle next?" "Of course, young Bethany," the cleric replied with apparent warmth. "But remember what we discussed about listening carefully and thinking deeply about the lessons being shared." As the children moved away, Remallia noticed that their conversation was peppered with phrases that seemed oddly mature for their age. They spoke of community responsibility and the importance of unity in ways that suggested careful coaching rather than natural development. As the evening wore on, Remallia moved through the festival crowds with the practiced eye of someone trained to observe details others might miss. What she saw disturbed her more with each passing hour. Conversations that stopped when strangers approached. Children who seemed to be reporting on their parents' activities to adult supervisors. Most telling of all was the absence of casual dissent and grumbling that marked every healthy community. She stopped at a stall selling illuminated manuscripts, striking up a conversation with the elderly woman who ran it. The work was exquisite, but as Remallia examined the books more closely, she noticed that many traditional prayers and hymns had been subtly altered. "These are beautiful works," she said. "I don't recognize some of the devotional passages, though." The woman's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. "Oh, yes, these are part of our new liturgical cycle. Father Thavius has been working with scholars to recover ancient texts that have been lost or corrupted over the centuries." Remallia nodded and smiled, but her mind was racing. Thavius Krieg was Elturel's high overseer, the most powerful religious authority in the city. If he was involved in recovering texts that altered traditional religious practices, then the corruption went to the highest levels. Her room at the Sword and Stars Inn overlooked the main square where the last festival goers were making their way home. The proprietor, Willem, was a gruff former soldier with a reputation for discretion. "Quiet night," Willem observed as she entered the common room. "Usually takes hours to clean this square after festival day, but folks here seem to know when it's time to head home." "Very organized community," Remallia agreed. Willem's expression grew thoughtful. "Aye, we've become quite organized over the past few years. Some say it's the blessing of the companion. Others..." He paused, glancing around the empty room. "Others say it's something else entirely." The careful way he spoke suggested Willem was one of the few people in Elturel who still maintained some skepticism about the changes that had transformed his city. "Time was, we had share of complainers and troublemakers," Willem continued. "Folks who questioned every decision. Drove me half mad sometimes, but it felt more natural. A few years back, we began getting new residents. Scholars, clerics, community organizers, all very enthusiastic about helping Elturel become the best version of itself." "What changed?" "People who attended their programs started changing, becoming more serious, more focused on duty. Started using the same phrases, expressing the same ideas. And folks who didn't participate found it harder to fit in. Most eventually left. The ones who stayed, they eventually joined their programs too." The next morning, Remallia made her way to the Brightblade Community Center on Temple Street. The building was impressive, a large stone structure with architectural details that encouraged gathering and discussion. "Welcome," said a young woman, whose cheerful demeanor marked her as staff. "I'm Sister Marta. Would you like a tour of our facilities?" As they walked through various rooms, Marta explained each program with detailed knowledge. The meditation sessions helped participants quiet the ego and open themselves to higher purposes. Discussion groups focused on texts emphasizing hierarchy and obedience. Leadership training taught methods for identifying natural followers while addressing problematic individualism. "How do you handle people who might be resistant to these ideas?" Remallia asked carefully. "We don't try to force anyone to change," Marta replied. "We create an environment
where the benefits of cooperation become so obvious that people naturally want to participate. Those who remain resilient usually find they're more comfortable in communities that better match their particular needs.
They paused, overlooking a room where 50 people sat in neat rows, listening to a speaker explain guided decision-making. The audience took notes with focused attention.
Tonight's community gathering will feature one of High Overseer Thavius' special presentations,
Marta continued.
He's been working on a new framework for understanding the relationship between individual will and collective good.
That evening, the community center's main hall had been transformed, with chairs arranged in concentric circles around a raised platform. The lighting created an atmosphere of intimacy and focus, while subtle background music established a mood of contemplation. Thavius Krieg took the platform precisely on time, his presence immediately commanding attention. He was tall and imposing, his bearing speaking of absolute confidence in his authority. "My friends," he began, "tonight we explore a question that has troubled philosophers for millennia. How can mortal beings, limited by their own perspectives, make decisions that serve the greater good?" What followed was a presentation brilliant in its sophistication and terrifying in its implications. Krieg used logic, religious authority, and emotional appeal to build a case that individual judgment was inherently flawed. That true wisdom required submission to a higher authority, and that resistance to guidance was spiritual sickness threatening the entire community. He spoke of the burden of choice, the anxiety of uncertainty, the peace found in knowing one's proper place in a divinely ordered hierarchy. He quoted scriptures with ease, weaving together ideas from multiple traditions to create a framework that seemed intellectually rigorous and spiritually compelling. But beneath the surface reasonableness, Remallia could hear distinctive cadences marking it as cult doctrine. The emphasis on hierarchy, dismissal of individual conscience, the suggestion that questioning authority was prideful damnation. These were ideas she had encountered in other cult contexts, dressed in legitimate religious language. Most disturbing was the audience response. These were clearly intelligent, well-educated citizens, yet they listened with rapt attention typically reserved for divine revelation, nodding at points that should have raised alarm bells. "Inspiring, wasn't it?" said Father Marcus as the presentation ended. His face glowed with satisfaction of confirmed beliefs. "Very thought-provoking," she replied carefully. "He's transformed our understanding of true community," Marcus said. "Before his guidance, we were just individuals pursuing separate goals. Now we're part of something greater." As they walked toward the exit, Marcus explained how the city's new approach had improved everything from crime rates to economic productivity. By measurable standards, Elturel had indeed become more efficient and orderly. Crime was virtually non-existent, disputes resolved quickly, public services operated with precision. The only problem was that these improvements had come at the cost of everything that made life worth living: creativity, spontaneity, the freedom to make mistakes and learn, the chaotic beauty of a community where people were free to be themselves. Back at the inn, Remallia's mind worked through the reports she would need to send to Harper Command. The situation was worse than suspected, but also more complex than traditional cult infiltration. This was not a case where heroes could simply arrest villains. The corruption was so deeply embedded that removing it would require delicate surgery rather than radical amputation. But time was running out. Every day Krieg's operation continued meant more people converted, more communities infected, more resources available for whatever ultimate goals the cult pursued. The transformation of Elturel was not an end in itself. It was a preparation for something much larger and more dangerous. The cult of the dragon had found a way to conquer without armies, to corrupt without obvious evil. to create willing slaves who believed themselves free. In the holy city of Elturel, under the Companion's light itself, they were perfecting methods that could transform the entire world. The real battle for the future had begun, and it would be fought not with swords and spells, but with ideas and ideologies, in the minds and hearts of people who thought they were choosing their own destiny, while dancing to music they could not hear. As Remallia prepared her coded messages for the Harper network, she understood that exposing this operation would require more than just intelligence gathering. It would require finding a way to break through years of careful psychological conditioning, to help people remember what they had lost, and to prove that freedom, messy, chaotic, uncertain freedom, was worth the price of its difficulties. The lamp burned late in her room that night, its steady light illuminating reports that would soon carry word of Elturel's hidden corruption to those who still fought for the light. In the morning, she would begin the dangerous work of building a resistance network within the city itself, seeking out the few individuals who still maintained enough independence of thought to recognize what had been done to their home. The cult had chosen their target well, but they had also underestimated the resilience of the human spirit. Even in Elturel, even under the weight of their sophisticated manipulation, there were still those who remembered what it meant to think for themselves. And with the right help, those sparks of resistance could be fanned into a flame that would burn away the shadows that had settled over this once proud city. The Harper's infiltration had revealed the threat, but the real work was just beginning. And so, this tale draws to a close. Though its echoes may linger in your dreams, the fire burns lower now. But don't despair. I've countless more stories waiting to be shared with you. If this tale stirred something within you, if it reminded you why magic still matters in this mundane world, then please, light your own beacon. That glowing thumbs up tells the spirits of story that our fellowship grows stronger. Subscribe to join our circle permanently and ring that notification bell. That way, you'll know the moment I return with new chronicles. The fire burns brightest when more souls gather around it, wouldn't you agree? Now, if that's the case, share this tale with another weary soul who needs it, reminding them adventure still exists. Tag a friend who would appreciate a good story by the fire. The more who believe, the more real these worlds become. And if you're new to our hearth, explore the playlist of chronicles that I've gathered. Tales of heroes and villains, love and loss, magic and mystery. Each one carefully chosen for souls like yours. Until the fire calls us together again, may your adventures be worthy of legend. And may you never lose the wonder that brought you here tonight. Travel or sleep well, brave soul. The long rest awaits your return.